أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا رحمة للعالمين بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. All praise and glory belongs to Allah, the creator of this universe, the one who embodies all the traits that if a human being gets familiar with, the end product of that would be love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the only being that is worthy of love. When we judge our loves, we see that we have multiple beings that we are in love with. As I mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of love, but we see that in our hearts, some of our hearts, we might not even have the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That our hearts are filled with the love of wives and kids and all the things that are in our lives that we have deemed them to be worthy of love. If the love of a person is not through the measuring scale of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that can get that person towards polytheism. Meaning if your measuring scale for love is not Allah, then the love of the wife and the children and the money and everything else that we have, that we love, can take you towards polytheism, which in Arabic is called shirk. Because He is the only one who is worthy of love. If you put a partner with Him, that you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you also love your wife, you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you also love your children, you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you also love yourself. So when you go through that, then you are putting a partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He is the only one that is worthy of love. So how are we supposed to work out this equation of love? Because every one of you who's here, a majority of you, have come because of the love of Imam Husain alayhi salatu wassalam. Although that is also debatable, but what our hearts say is that we are in love with Imam Husain, so therefore it is the birthday of Imam Husain, it is the day that we need to go and celebrate. Which truly is the day of days, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have chosen any day to have Imam Husain to come into this world. But He decided that the 3rd of Shabaan was going to be the day that He would choose. So there must be something in this day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to bring one of the best of His creations on the face of this earth. What we get concerned about is that, we look at the convenience of the people. If it's a weekday, then it's not really convenient, and so let's do it on Saturday or let's do it on Sunday. And by doing that, we actually miss out on that particular day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to bless humanity with a being like Imam Husain alayhi salatu wassalam. Because we're not really concerned about the faith or the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that are going to be bestowed upon us because of that special day, we miss out on it. So, to resolve that equation, I can give you the statement and see if we can understand it. The only being that is absolutely worthy of love is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything that flows through this love is exactly an absolute tawheed. So if I love my wife because she is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that love for my wife is not because she is my wife, but because she is a creation of Allah, there is nothing wrong with that love. It's actually right in the bounds of Tawheed. If I love my job because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He has given me this as means for my sustenance to be, through my own efforts, to be brought in for those people who are dependent on for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through my means, there's nothing wrong with loving your job. If you love money for the sake that this money can become means for you to be able to spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and help out those individuals that need help, then there is no problem with this love. And when you love Imam Husain for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Imam Husain is Aba Abdullah, that he is the father of the slavery of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is nothing wrong with that love. But when we look at our own selves, there is two things. One is that we love Imam Husain as a person, and the other is personality. So far, we are in love with Imam Husain as a person. Yeah. And to be in love with Imam Husain as a person does not require the faith of Islam. Hindus are in love with Imam Husain. Sikhs are in love with Imam Husain. You can hear that in their poetry. We who happen to claim that we are the lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, if somebody was to enter into our majlis, into our milad, and they had no poetry in the beginning, they would be like, let me do it. If there was a Sikh who would enter who loves Imam Husain, they would say, give me the opportunity, I will recite the poetry of Imam Husain. And there are individuals who are Sikhs who have written poetry that is amazing about Imam Husain. So there's one thing is that, okay, some of the people, they say, it's all what we do is just poetry, and there's nothing else. No, poetry is also an expression of the love that you have of Imam Husain. And it should be there. कोई जश्न का माहौल तो आपने वैसे बंदा मेरे जैसा बुला लिया जो जश्न का माहौल क्रिएट नहीं कर सकता, ऊपर से ना कोई सलावात है, ना कोई उस तरह से जो है वो कोई कसीदे हैं, ना कुछ और, ये अजीब. So, you'll find in India many Hindus and many Sikhs who actually participate in the progression or the julus of Imam Husain. They'll come and do matam. There was one Hindu who used to do that, and one of the doctors narrates that he used to go to India quite often. He said this Hindu passed away. And when he passed away, they burned his body. And after that, they brought something in a cloth for the Muslims. And in that cloth was his hand and a piece of his chest. They gave that to the Muslims. They said that this belongs to you. The fire that they put that body in did not burn his hand or the chest. That Hindu had enough conviction and love in Imam Husain ﷺ that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed as you can say, as an extraordinary thing, the proof of his love for Imam Husain. There was a businessman who used to always put a certain amount of money in the account of Syed Husain. Translated into English, Syed, you would translate into maybe like a tycoon, like a business person who has a lot of money. So he used to always tell his accountant, put certain amount of money in the account of Syed Husain. And he used to do that. And one day his business went flopped. He went bankrupt. And the accountant came in and said that, you used to give all of this money to Syed Husain. Why don't you ask him for some money now? And the Hindu said that, never ever speak to me about this again. Whatever I have given to Syed Husain, it is his. As they're having this conversation, the door knocks, and the accountant goes, opens the door, comes back, and he has a big bag of money. And he said, it's funny that we were talking about Syed Husain. This person knocked on the door and said, I am from Syed Husain, and he gave this bag of money to you. The conviction of that Hindu as far as love for Imam Husain was such that in the hardest of his times, Imam Husain helped him. And he got back on his feet. So just to love Imam Husain as a person does not require the bounds of faith or Islam. But how is it different of our love of the love of a Hindu or a Sikh? It's a question. The way it can be different is that once we start finding out what was the personality of Imam Husain and start looking at his principles and falling in love with his principles. When you fall in love with the principles of Imam Husain, the love for the person is automatic. You don't have to fight it. And what I see among our own selves and myself, that when we look at our lives and our communities and our homes, we do not have the principles of Imam Husain in us. If you're really in love with the principles of Imam Husain, one of his principles was ghairah. Ghairat. Inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses, we'll see if we can explain that to us. If somebody was to ask you, what were the principles of Imam Husain? Yes, we will be able to say, yeah, the principles of Imam Husain, all the textbook stuff. That's neither in our character or our homes or communities, but it's in textbook and we have heard it. Yeah, we can say, Imam Husain had justice. Imam Husain was a humanist. He used to help out individuals. He was very generous. He was pious. He was righteous. He was a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was sincere with the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and submission. We can say all of those things that you've heard from Maulanas and in the books. But we haven't fallen in love with those principles yet. Because if you were in love, you would be in love with justice. And someone who is in love with justice and fairness puts justice and fairness in his character and also in the home and in the community and everywhere else. And what we see in our homes is oppression. We see our kids oppressing the parents and the parents oppressing the children. The rights of the children are not given, and neither are the rights of the parents given. Wherever I go, majority of the parents, they say, because I speak in English and youth generally understand English, so they will always say to me that, okay, can you talk about the rights of the parents? And never ever has anybody ever asked me to speak about the rights of the children. They always say, talk about the rights of the parents, but never the rights of the children. It's a two-way street. No right is individual or independent. The only right that is individual and independent are the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no one who has right on Allah, but He has rights on everyone else. He is the only being. The rest, all the creations, it's a two-way street. You have rights, I have rights. If you don't give me my rights and expect justice to happen, it's not going to happen. When would justice happen? When both individuals who have rights on each other are given. When the parents deliver the rights to the children and the children deliver the rights to the parents, it's justice and fairness. And if that does not happen, you will have unfairness in the house. Husband has rights. By the way, it's not only wives have rights. Husband has dignity and respect. It's not only wives. The rights of the husband is delivered, the rights of the wife is delivered. In the marriage will be justice and fairness. But if only one person's rights are given, no matter how extreme of an effort is put in to give those rights, it's not fairness. Where is that in our lives? In the community, fairness and justice should be there. How are we fair? In the community? Are we fair? We're not. I'm a Khoja, or even in like for example, I'm a Khoja, you are Pakistani Khoja, I'm an African Khoja. Even that we are unfair. Both are Khoja. No. There's a difference. Is that fair? It's not. To put somebody down on the place of their birth, that nobody has control over where they come in this earth, is not fair. What was the fault of that individual that got born in Pakistan, or what was the fault of the individual who got born in Africa? And to put these on each other and deal with each other, that I'm better than you, it's not fair. Or I'm a Punjabi and he's a Urdu speaking. The Urdu speaking is making fun of the Punjabis and the Punjabis are making fun of the Urdu speaking. Is that fair? You go in your community and look, the amount of fairness is rampant. It's everywhere. But we say that we love Imam Husain. Yes, we love Imam Husain just the way a Hindu or Sikh would. But for us to love Imam Husain, we need to go beyond that. We need to start falling in love with fairness and justice. And then Imam Husain will not just remain a figure as a person, but he will become a personality. A personality that you and I can emulate. That you and I can put as a role model and we can emulate and become that. If you just love Imam Husain as a person, he becomes as of a Superman. Which he was. With superpowers that nobody else had. Which he was. You know. To be able to make the dead come back to life. He was. To be able to intercede to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the behalf of an angel. He was. To have the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be shown on angels through Imam Husain. He was. Who can say that? But his character was brought on this earth for to be emulated. For people to say, I want to become like Husain. Nobody can become like Imam Husain to the level that he has closeness to Allah. Nobody can. But can you have fairness? Can you have fairness in your home? I mean, you're going to be at home, whether you like it or not, you are a parent or you are going to become a parent, right? Whether you like it or not, you are a son or a daughter or... I mean, everybody's a son or a daughter. I mean, you can't get away with that. You cannot go away and say, no, I'm not a father anymore. You are. I'm not a mother anymore, you are. A son cannot say, I'm not a son anymore. You are. A daughter, you are. So while you are, why don't you become and take the principles of fairness and learn from Imam Husain Satus? Rather than the husband and wife resolving their issues by reading Cosmopolitan or whatever the magazines that they're going to have, or listening to Dr. Oz, or going through the psychotherapy of a person who will charge you $500 an hour and sitting on a couch and asking you, what do you think? Why don't you take the example of Imam Husain or take the example of Bibi Fatima and Imam Ali and resolve your marital issues by making them as your role model as a husband and a wife? What's stopping you and I? Why don't my brothers start acting like a son that he was to Imam Ali? You're still going to be a son. You're still going to be a daughter. So when you just love our personalities that are lovable by humanity, and you just love them as a person and forget about their personality, all of these things start happening. A young man came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. By the way, like when it's the happy occasions, you should also try to dress up. You should dress up for a happy occasion. Yes, it's important. You'll feel different. Yes or no? When you dress nicely, when you go to a wedding, if, for example, today all of you or the brothers, they were to get up and say, okay, let's go to this wedding. You will know, I don't want to go. I can't go. I can't go in my jeans. I can't go in my t-shirt. I can't go in my shorts. Why? Because it's a happy day there. It's an event. It's like, people are going to look at me and say, what are you doing here? It's supposed to be, at least dress up for the occasion. Have we gone that far back? It's a blessed day. It's a day of happiness. It's a happy day. It's much more happy day than any wedding that you can attend. This was the day that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us with the personality of Imam Husain alayhi salatu wasalam. How can we thank ever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that mercy that He bestowed upon us? Just walking with like whatever. You would feel different. We have other jasans coming up. It's not just the sisters who have to dress up really nice for a jashan. The brothers too. Because it makes you, unconsciously, it makes you think that you are happy and you're attending an important event. That is something different. Okay? So the young man was walking, and the Holy Prophet asked him, do you love me? He said, I do. And the Prophet said, do you love me more than your parents? And the young man said, I love you, Ya Rasulullah, more than my parents. And the Prophet said, do you love me more than your brothers? He said, yeah, I love you more than my brothers. Then the Prophet said, do you love me more than your own life? And the young man replied, Wallah, I swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I love you more than my life. Then the Prophet asked, do you love me more or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And there the young man, he said, Ya Rasulullah, this question of yours is a bit tough to answer, because the only reason why I love you more than my parents, more than my brothers, my family, more than my life, is because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have we come to that place that this person who's not even baligh yet came to that place of maturity? Do we love Imam Husain for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or do we love him for the sake of our own selves? To be honest, we love Imam Husain for the sake of our own selves. When you go for the ziyarah of Imam Husain, you ask for whatever illness that you have, whatever that your heart desires, you ask and Imam Husain gives. So you fall in love. मौला ने मुझे ये बेटा दिया है मौला ने शिफा दिया है. My master gave me, this health that I have. He did. Right? And so do the Hindus and the Sikhs. They get that too. We still are in love with Imam Husain because of our own love. Because Imam Husain will do shafaat for us, and he will. Because Imam Husain is a means for me to ask for my sons and for my daughters and for a job and for every difficulty that I'm in. He is. Who loved him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the span of Imam Husain's life? Who loved him for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who ended up sacrificing everything that they had. Who sacrificed their children, who sacrificed their wealth, who sacrificed themselves, every single thing that they had, because they loved Imam Husain for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, were the friends that Imam Husain had in Karbala. They loved Imam Husain for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they knew that in the obedience of Imam Husain is their success in this world and also in the hereafter. The people in Makkah loved Imam Husain because of the Holy Prophets, because of this, because of that. They left him. In Medina, same thing. Kufa, the same thing. We haven't been tested yet. Whose birthday you're going to celebrate in a few days is that litmus test. If so far we are in love with Ahlul Bayt alayhi for the sake of us, then really it's a projection of our love. And when he comes and says you have to give yourself, you have to give your life, you have to give your family, you have to give your children, you have to give your wealth, what will we do? Hum kya karenge? Yeah. Because we have fallen in love with us so much that even the love of Ahlul Bayt is our love projected. So my brothers and sisters, we need to do a few things differently now. Okay? So the next jashan that we have, you're going to dress up first thing. Okay? You're going to dress up really nice, the best clothes that you have. Whenever Imam Masumin used to get a new dress, they would always first pray in it. Like for example, they got a new thobe or new dress, they would always pray in it first. And they would say, I want to show to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how He has blessed me, and because I am going to be in His company, I want to wear the best that I have. When you come to a jashan, you are coming and you are in front of the attention of the Imam of the time. Either stop saying that or start acting that. We say that, yeah, Imam Zaman is looking at us and he's going to pray for us, and Imam Husain is happy because we are celebrating his birthday. Well, if you have this belief that they're watching you, don't act it. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to dress up nicely. It will be beneficial for our hearts to be, become prepared that it is an important day. And second of all, the jashan of Imam Masumin alayhi salam requires a way to ponder how we can have their happiness. Milad is not about our happiness. Milad is about their happiness. If they are happy, it's Eid for us. Yes or no? But if they're not happy, then that day is going to be the worst of the days. If Imam Husain was to enter into this establishment and we are commemorating, or we are celebrating his birthday, and he says to somebody, what are you doing like this? How come I don't see you dressed in an Islamic dress? How come I don't see physically what your body should look like as a Muslim? What will you do? The happiness of Imam Husain is in the submission to the will of Allah. And his anger and wrath and disappointment and being upset is in the disobedience of Allah. If we want to make Imam Husain happy, we need to start submitting to the will of Allah. That's it. Poetry that is recited because it is something that, a message can be delivered, people's hearts can open up. There is nothing wrong with it. And Imam Husain and Imam actually helped and motivated individuals to do that. They gave big amounts of rewards, hadiyah, for those individuals who recited. They have said that if a person recites one verse of poetry, on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him a house that is 6 times the space of this whole earth. 6 times. You with me? Who's going to recite now tomorrow? If it is done sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to actually move the people's hearts so that they either are happy or they get saddened on the hardships of Imam Masumin alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward that person for one verse of that poetry, a house that is 6 times the size of this earth. And in that house, the Malaika and Anbiya will come and shake hands with this person. Right? But it's not just about poetry and coming and reciting it. It's about that sincerity and the reason why we do that. Just because that reason is not there, or just because people have taken one thing to the extreme, doesn't mean we should let go of it. Doesn't mean that we should let go. We should continue because it is something of a tool. So, the other thing about being happy for the sake of Imam Husain is that we need to start looking at the blessing of Imam Husain. Imam Husain is a blessing of Allah. If you do not know about the blessing and you do not know why it was given to you, you will never be able to say thank you. If you're getting tired, you can recite a salawat. That's also part of. Don't worry, namaz will be soon. So that too is a burden for us. Right? I feel quite glad that you can still listen to me for 35 minutes, but when it comes to namaz, 17 minutes become heavy for you. Maghrib takes about 3 to 4 minutes. It's heavy. Oh my God, I've done such a big job. Right? Oh my God, as if I was like carrying so much weight and I've been able to now just feel so relaxed. 3 minutes. The blessing of Imam Husain we need to think about. And think about why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this blessing. Just like you should think about your eyes. You should think about this nose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. You should think about the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon you. And when you do, you will get this feeling of immense thank and love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll give you one small thing and then about the blessing that you take for granted, and you have it here too. It's everywhere. I'll tell you a little bit about it and you'll see, you'll be amazed. Outside when you go, that you see the clouds? Yes or no? Come on. Yes. Do you think the clouds weigh something? Huh? Do they weigh something? If they weigh something, how come they don't fall down? If they weigh something, how come they don't fall down? And I'll tell you the amount of weight that they have. They did an experiment where they took a helicopter and they put on the rope a huge bucket. that had a bit of sponge material in it to see the moisture in the cloud. So he took that and he went through the top of the cloud, and when he brought it back and he calculated the amount of weight that it had gotten, that cloud approximately weighed 9 tons. Subhanallah. 9 tons. They say that around the world in an hour, 9 trillion worth of weight, 9 trillion tons worth of weight of water falls on the earth. We take it for granted. Just if you were to go and do some research on this blessing of the clouds that you see over there every day, once you do the research and you find out how great Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, how His knowledge and wisdom, that day when you are praying namaz, when you think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will be in humility. This is the physical beauty and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Husain was physical and also spiritual blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It cannot be compared with any other blessing. Learn about Imam Husain, not just the person, but the personality. You know, if you expected कि भाई मौलाना आएंगे, जश्न पढ़ेंगे, जश्न में क्या होगा, फितरुस का जिक्र होगा, ये होगा, फिर वो मसलन आइम्मा मासूमी बीबी फातिमा को इमाम अली अलैहिस्सलाम को खुशखबरी भी दी गई और ताज़ियत भी की गई, और फिर ये हुआ, फिर हूरें आईं, फिर ये सारा कुछ जो हमारे जश्न का होता है. So we would have that whole narration, you know, how the hurs came from the heaven and, you know, the angel was given intercession and so forth, which is true. They are in traditions. If our mind, intellect cannot comprehend, we cannot deny it. Right? But just to have the same copy-paste jashan is not going to leave enough room for us to talk about anything else. Right? So we need to think about the personality of Imam Husain, identify the qualities that Imam Husain had, and then try to put that into your own life. Imam Husain will be happy with you. If we can recite the salawat, we'll just talk about one of those and then see if we can understand it. A little bit louder. The louder you recite salawat, the more nifaq comes out of your heart. Is that's the amount that we have? I think we have a little bit more, no? In tradition, it has been said that, you know, everybody has 2 faces. And the louder you recite the salawat, one face you become. Okay? So, one of the principles of Imam Husain was ghaira. Okay? And in English, it's one of the words that's very, very difficult to translate. When you start looking into the dictionary, you might have a word like grit, or you might have zeal. You know, one of these words will come up if you do a search on Google or Sheikh Google, and he will tell you that ghairat means this. Ghairat is the quality of strength inside of a human being that allows that human being to protect the things that he or she loves and is even willing to give his or her life. Ghairat is that quality, that strength that a human being has that allows this person to protect and defend the one thing that he or she loves, and in that process will sacrifice everything, even their lives. And we generally use this term of ghairat when it comes to for our sisters or for our mothers or for our daughters. The Farsi में میگیم که اگر کسی مثلا عزت ناموس داره غیرتمند هست. That if somebody is concerned about about the respect of their wives or their mothers or their sisters, we will say that this person has ghairat. If they're not concerned that they can walk out of the door whichever way that they want to dress, whichever way that they want, and whoever wants to look at them can look at them, then we say this person does not have ghairat. Why this person does not have ghairat? Because that one thing that he loves, that's the embodiment of his respect and his honor, that is supposed to be clean and left clean and not get dirty by the eyes of others, this person is not able to protect. And if we see around us, we've lost ghairat. When it comes, and it has many different angles, but one of them is this. That a father is okay if his daughter goes out in those skinny jeans and a t-shirt, and while she goes out, the rest of the people that are on the street looks at her. Nothing happens to the father. Or the husband would say actually to his wife who actually wants to wear hijab, don't wear hijab. I don't like you wearing hijab. That he's okay that if the wife can do all of the hair and makeup and everything and go out on the street and people look at her while he's standing right next to her. This person does not have ghairat. The one thing that belongs to him and that is embodiment of his love and honor is not able to protect. And we see that all the time. Imam Husain was a ghayur. He had a ghaira. He had a ghairat for everything that connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he protected that. He sacrificed all that he had to protect it. The individuals who love Imam Husain, they should have ghaira. Not just in the sense of their namus or sisters and mothers and daughters, but also everything that is associated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs to be protected. For example, your religion, my religion, it needs to be protected. Somebody can come and say whatever they want about Islam, we're okay. They can say whatever they want about our fundamentals, we're okay. It's all right, it's okay, don't worry about it. We don't show anything. In our communities, people are doing wrong and they're taking the roots, they're cutting the roots of Islam. It's okay, it's all right. It's all right. This person does not have ghaira. Let's learn that from Imam Husain. Let's be ghairatmand. Let's identify the things we love. That is part of our honor, our identity, and let's protect it. It's one of the traits of Imam Husain. He was put on a spot where he said himself, he said that I've been put in a spot where I have to decide whether to live a life of shame or whether to die with honor. And shame is away from me, or rather die in honor. And we don't feel like we're okay with shame. Yes or no? I mean, I'm included. People come and they take the tenets of Islam, they say whatever they want to say, and it's shameful to Islam and to all the Muslims. It's like, it's okay. Oh, you're saying that we should say something? Yes. You should say something. You should defend the honor of Islam. Oh, you're telling us to be an extremist. If I was to say to you that I'm here to collect the funds to save the pandas because they are being extinct and we need to protect it because they are a source of love and cuddliness and everything, you'd be like, oh, this guy is a humanist. Such a nice guy. Give him a Nobel Prize. He's trying to protect the pandas. And if I go out in the jungle and I get, for example, trampled over by something and I die, it's like, this guy, amazing person. But if I was to talk about stop the shame and protect the humanity and protect the light of Islam, and that all that is there, that is dear to God, is now in question. Oh, this guy is an extremist. He's an angry person. If I tell somebody to do Amr bin Maruf Anil Munkar, for the sisters to be dressed in the Islamic dress, for the brothers to act as, have the physique and the clothes of Islam, so, oh, this person is extremist. When we need to protect the iffat and the integrity and the righteousness of our sisters and of our brothers, in protecting that, if I am that way, it's not because that I'm angry, it is because I need to protect that love, that thing that is righteous and pious. I need to protect that. I learned that from Imam Husain. That is my ghairah. I cannot just say, go ahead and trample it. We need to, within the bounds of the law, within the bounds of freedom of speech. I'm not saying to break any of the land of the laws. No, the law of the land is there. You need to protect that. 40% of the individuals, they are not in agreement with the foreign policy and the domestic policy of America. 40% of Americans. That was a long time ago, before all of this drama and entertainment started. The person who's going to become the president does not agree with the foreign and domestic policy of America. So if they can say that, why can't you and I? There's nothing wrong with that. How come we got so afraid to actually now stop saying what the right thing is? And that we're expecting others to be shoulder to shoulder and defend our rights. Is that ghairah? If somebody says something about Islam, we need to say, bhai, what you're saying is wrong. Muslims are not supposed to be practicing that Islam. What you're saying is wrong. We had, after that, the shooting that happened, our sisters, they couldn't, some of them couldn't walk on the street because they were harassed. And as time goes by, it's going to get worse. We need to understand that the principle of Imam Husain of ghairah is one of those things that is lacking in us. And we need to have that. We need to practice that. Start that from your home. Don't let your wives and your sisters and your daughters get out of the house without the proper Islamic code. Show your ghairah. And when it comes to your community, show your ghairah. If there are laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not being obeyed, say something. If there are individuals who are taking your children away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, say something. And then on the international level, if you see that there is a need for us to put a voice against the oppression on Muslims or humanity, say something. Be the flag bearer of the protection of the rights and the fundamentals and the beauty of Islam and humanity. Our humanity is in danger. Imam Husain has shown those people who have stood up for humanity, they learned from Imam Husain. And one of those examples we always quote and we get really proud. Gandhi learned how to resist from Imam Husain. A Hindu learned from Imam Husain and changed his nation. And we say it by proudly and we put it on the banners and we have it on the websites and we do that. He learned it, where are we? He learned how to resist and saved his nation. What about ours? The day of celebration is a day of thanks, recognizing the blessing of Imam Husain والسلام, falling in love with the personality of Imam Husain والسلام, and using him as our role model in our character. And one of those things you and I need to work on is ghera. Go do your research if you need to. Find out what ghairat means. Start from your home. Get yourselves into the community. And within the land of the law and the bounds that are there for freedom of speech, not of hate, go and defend your rights, the rights of others, and the light of Islam. Imam Husain والسلام, has taught us that. He's the light of heavens and earth, of the principles that he upheld. And the light was brought on this earth for this earth to be illuminated. For our hearts to be illuminated. For us to find strength in the example of Imam Husain. For us to say that Imam Husain has taught me to have ghairat and to stand up on my principles, Imam Husain taught me. And shame is away from us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this blessed day a source of pondering and a way to recognize the blessing of Imam Husain and a day of thanks. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless this day for us to be able to make our communities, ourselves better with the light of Imam Husain والسلام, for us to become the slaves and the followers of the Imam of the time, for him to come as soon as possible, and for our differences to end with the love that we all have for Imam Husain والسلام and his holy progeny. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wal-Asr, inna al-insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa aminu as-salihat, tawasaw bil-haqq wa tawasaw bis-sabr.